And joining me now is former Virginia Congressman Tom Davis. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Katie.
The president's going to Corpus Christi, and he will be diverting, at the very least, some resources away from him. There is an ongoing search and rescue effort underway in Houston and the other areas that have been devastated so far by this flood. It could only intensify and get worse by tomorrow. Do you think it's the right time to go?
Well, I don't know. You lose either way. Either you're too late, you're too early, and I think whatever this president does is going to come under some criticism at this point. What really matters is what happens in the weeks ahead. We haven't seen, as this storm unfolds, we haven't seen the worst damage yet.
No.
Rain is still coming down. And what's the federal response could be 2-3 weeks from now? We've seen presidents come down and showboat on the Jersey Shore, and then nothing happens over the year. So there's a long way to go on this. But I would weigh in for going earlier than later. Could he have waited a couple days? Sure, until it was over. But
what about the pardon of Joe Arpaio, saying that he did it on purpose because he knew people would be paying attention? What was your reaction when he said that?
I thought he was kind of rebutting some of the media criticism that he was trying to hide this on a Friday night and just went right back in the face saying, oh, no, I did this on purpose. Okay. It's hard to tell what the motivation was in something like this. But look, this is a base vote pardon. The country's divided on this. I don't think he lost any votes over it. But, you know, to his critics, it just gives them one more reason to pile on.
Putting the storm aside, we've been talking about Donald Trump and whether he is a Republican, whether he is something else. Who are his supporters? Are they Republican? Are they something else? Is the Republican Party maybe just not Republican any longer? He wants to start something of a culture war, it seems. Is the Republican Party going to lean into that?
Well, I think it depends. Not if they want to be a majority party. You've got to be big tent. You've got to be a national party. And right now what we have are really two one-party countries. There are people in the middle that get caught up, but Republicans need to be a party of inclusion, a welcoming party, if they want to stay in the majority at this point.
Does that party include Donald Trump?
Well, it could, but you're going to have to change. I mean, you've got to grow the majority. And at this point, politics is a game of addition, not subtraction. And he's going to have to reach out and change, I think, for the party's sake. For his own sake, that's, you know, he's got to make that own decision. And that's why you're seeing some Republicans rebel at this. They're saying, I can't get reelected if the party is defined along those narrower lines.
John Danforth wrote in the Washington Post the other day that maybe it's not that Trump isn't the GOP, but that the GOP isn't what he was, isn't what you are, or isn't what you guys think it might be any longer. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Oh, sure. Look, the party, if you take a look at how the party has kind of mutated over the last 12, 16 years, it's moved from the country club out to the country. It's become a much more rural, working class-based party, losing votes with educated voters in high-income areas like my old congressional district. That's been a play because of cultural issues, because of, you know, coal. These kind of things have kind of driven that apart. But long-term, the demographics are, without welcoming immigrants and new Americans in, it's a losing coalition.
So what do? They have a president who's not trying to expand the tent, let's be honest. He's really playing towards his base. He's somebody who's alienated minorities in this country, specifically Latinos, and that base of voters is only growing. What does the Republican Party do for the next 4 years? Well, that's potentially the next 8 years.
Yeah, that's why you see the scrambling between the congressional leadership, who has a much wider coalition than the president does, to being a majority. And this midterm election is going to be a test for that. And you're seeing some Republicans, particularly in these swing districts, having to define themselves and not being aligned with the president because they need a broader base to win. And look, this is still in transition. This will work itself out over the next 2, 4, 6, 8 years. But as you follow what's happened over the last decade and a half, the party has been moving in the direction of President Trump. And I think that Bush and Christie and John Kasich didn't realize that the party base had started to change, and Trump just put an exclamation point on it.
So the White House is dealing with, as Axios put it, cascading crises. There's a number of things that are going on. There's the debt limit. Donald Trump saying that he will shut down the government if he doesn't get funding for his wall. They also want to do tax reform. Who knows when they're going to be able to get that done? The timeline keeps getting pushed back. The midterm elections are around the corner. We're getting more news about Russia. He's getting a lot of heat for this pardoning of Joe Arpaio, even from other Republican lawmakers. We're also hearing that he reportedly went to the DOJ and said, how do we get this Arpaio trial done away with? Can you get this moved on instead of before he went on to do the Arpaio pardon? How does a presidency and an administration handle all of those crises while dealing with a natural disaster.
And how do you stay an outsider when you're the insider? I mean, that's part of the point here. Look, they've got to get the debt ceiling done. They've got no question in Congress, whatever he puts on his desk, I think he'll sign at the end of the day. The wall is his signature issue. And the last Congress, for the first time in history, they had a prohibition to put any money on the wall. He's going to probably draw a line on that, and we'll see what happens on that. I think they'll move ahead with funding on an interim basis for the problems with Hurricane Harvey. They can do a supplemental separate from that and move that so it's not clogged up with everything else. We haven't had the government funded on time since 1996.
Is there enough money, though, to fund this recovery effort, which is probably going to be massive, and also fund a border wall and do all the other funding the government needs to get done?
It depends what you think about the deficit. The deficit was a big deal when you're not the in party, but you become the in party, all of a sudden the deficit disappears as an issue. And we're seeing that. I think we'll see that on taxes. I think we'll see that with this. Going
to get a lot on their plates when they come back and start working again. Thank you so much for joining us. Tom Davis, former Congressman, appreciate your time from Virginia. Please come back and talk to us again.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.